Hello YouTube, Intuitive Edge. This video is going to be a little bit different than my regular videos, and it may not be for everyone. This video I'm going to talk about some spiritual topics, and so if you are a spiritual seeker, if you are somebody who wants to seek truth and wisdom and follow the leading of spirit, then this video is probably for you. If you're not one of those, then this probably isn't for you. So just letting you know, I'm going to try to make this concise as possible, but I have some thoughts that I kind of want to pull together, and so I'm going to try to do that here as I talk to you further. So for those of you who aren't aware, there is a book series called The Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East. Now this book series, it's a 5-book series. It was written over the probably 1920s, 30s, and 40s, kind of at various times. But it details the experiences of a team that went to India and met up with and studied some of the masters in the Himalayan mountains. And it's their story, their journey, about what they found, what they experienced, the miracles, the provisions, and the profound wisdom that they came upon was unlike anything I've ever read. Similar only to that which you might find in the New Testament regarding the life of Jesus. But that aside, if any of you are spiritual seekers and you've never heard of this volume of books, or you've never read them, this should be in everyone's library. Every true seeker needs to have these series of books in their library. That's my recommendation anyway. This is volume 4. It's a 5-book series. I think I mentioned that. But as I was reading this last night, and so hence the reason I'm doing this video, is I came across something that for me, it hit me kind of profound, and I'm still trying to flesh it out a little bit and see kind of what I really feel and what's really going on. But I wanted to share it here because I think it's pretty profound, and it has to do with Hawaii. And I thought of it in terms of what's happening now with the volcanoes that are destroying things over there. So this book goes pretty deep into spiritual truths. So if you'd like to sit back and relax, I'm going to read a little bit of this. I'll try not to bore you and read it all. But there are pieces of this that I thought were relevant to what's happening today, and it brought up some questions that I have. So let me get back to my page 51. Okay. So it says in here, the Hawaiians possess a great natural insight into things they prophesy and prognosticate. Now, Hawaii, this was written probably in the 30s, 40s. I don't know when this exactly was. Let's see if it says in here. 1948. Okay, 48. There is a certain group of Hawaiians who will get together and tune in to impending influences. If they perceive an influence that is not of benefit, they turn it over to another group who work against it, and it never manifests. The Hindus say that one man can prophesy, and another God-man can stop fulfillment of the prophecy. So this piqued my interest because I thought, in terms of the volcano that's happening there and the great destruction that is taking place on the island in certain areas, to me that would fall into the realm of impending influence and influence that is not of benefit. And so it got me thinking. Okay, so I read on. It continues. In our experience with the Hawaiians, we never found an instance where they had failed to stop a negative event that had been prophesied. It is claimed that they have stopped many invasions. The ones performing the duty would lay down a certain line and the enemy could not cross it. Many times this had been included in their legends. At times, the enemy could not even land on their shores. The Carnegie Institute experimented some time ago with a group of certain Indians in Arizona. This group laid down a certain line, and none could cross it except in love. 2 men tried to force their way across the line, and both men lost their lives. The unillumined make the mistake of thinking that prophecy is inevitable, that if a thing is set to happen, it must happen. And this is where, this is so critical and so important, and this is where I wanted to talk. Because I personally, when I do tarot, I like to look into seeing what is in the realm of possibility, the energies surrounding things that are set to happen. But I'm very careful when it comes to following certain channels, whether it be on YouTube or wherever, that just seem to want to prophesy and be about doom and gloom. Because I really believe that doom and gloom, that there are powers that can move us into a different timeline. Now, what I mean by that is, say humanity is going a certain direction, or a group of people, maybe not all of us, but to make it a little easier to understand, a group of people or a country are heading a certain direction. Nothing that we experience is ever set in stone. There are influences that we can, with our free will, we can make changes to the trajectory of where we're heading. Any of us can do that by understanding natural law, that's number 1. Learning to work within the powers of the universe and understand it, and then working to change ourselves so that we are more in line with following after the truth and being in line with spiritual truth. I'm careful to follow channels where they only talk about this bad thing that's supposed to happen or focused on this negative thing. Now, while they may be 100% accurate, that is accurate to a point. And I want to continue reading because I think this will kind of make my point for me. So let me continue. Whether there be prophecies, they shall fail, say the scriptures. Prophecy comes mostly from the established mental structure immediately surrounding the earth, being the projection of man's own limited thought. And I think that when we hear about these prophets of doom and gloom, they probably are accessing insight, intuition, but it's coming from a realm that is projections rather than seeing the overall God purpose. So let me continue. The faculty of perception directed into this field may sense the trend of this mental influence and what will likely be the outworking in the material plane. This belongs to the realm of false prophecy, and it can be set aside. So again, I'm thinking that prophesying the doom and gloom, that can be averted by free will. Looking past those projections, those thought forms that have accumulated, and looking beyond that into the God nature and accessing the wisdom that resides there. That is what can change the trajectory of a nation or a people or a race into a better field of being. Okay, continuing. The scriptures warn against false prophets who turn the attention of people away from God. True prophecy is the result of keeping this sense directed to the plane of spirit until the individual catches the trend of universal law. The law of the universe readily sets aside any accumulations to the contrary in the minds of individuals or races. It is accomplished as easily as shadows are dispelled by the light. The sun dispels the night. A single candle will banish darkness from a room. For light, whether small or great, has unlimited power over surrounding darkness, whether it be large or small. Only a little illumination on the part of the individual can dispel any amount of negation, limitation, or false prophecy around him, for they are only vague shadows with no potency within them. Do not accept prophecies of destruction and calamity. Look into the realm of spirit, and they vanish. So this is saying, be careful about, just accepting a fate. Well, it's just, it's just going to happen this way. The earth is doomed or whatever. This is saying not to accept that. It does not have to be that way. I want to continue. There was a group of persons in the Hawaiian Islands who came there from Japan, bringing black magic with them. They claimed they could pray a person to death, but that group no longer exists. Before one can practice black magic or become an antichrist, he must first become versed in the power of the Christ consciousness. He gets the Christ power and uses it erroneously. The outcome of such practice is self-destruction. And with the destruction of individuals given to the practice of the black art, the art passes with them. The most painful, if not the quickest method of self-destruction is the misuse of spiritual knowledge. The individual tempted to use this spiritual knowledge to influence, control, or gain advantage over others should remember that every edict which goes forth from his own mind or mouth passes through his own being and becomes a fiat of power within his own nature, working upon himself exactly as he intended it for another. This is what Christ meant when he said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And this is also what Christ meant when he said you reap what you sow. Your being is a kingdom subject to the rulership of what you yourself decree. Whether his decree is accepted by another makes little difference to the individual sending it forth. It is received and acted upon within his own kingdom, and he is sure of the most complete results in his own being. The kingdom within the individual will be heavenly only when he sends forth decrees that come from the heavenly realms, the spirit where all things move in harmony to promote well-being and the advancement of every individual on earth. The gift is to the giver and comes back to him, whether it be good or ill. As you give, so you receive. So pretty powerful stuff. And this is the whole of natural law. This is, well, I don't know if it's the whole of it. This is a piece of it. This is a huge chunk. But to understand this is to begin to understand natural law. And the understanding of natural law is spiritual wisdom. Just want to read this here. This I found interesting. One denomination of rishis in India is able to perceive an event that is set to happen. If it be evil, another group immediately takes it up and it does not happen at all. That was true also of the Hebrew race in the past. They prevented many wars among their people in that way. And it says here, many are using the same method in preventing accidents today. Many people never have an accident. We worked with a group of over 700 people in the United States that worked definitely to prevent accidents, and in 3.5 years we were with them, there was never an accident in the group. That group has now been augmented until there are about 4,000 members today. And again, this is in the 1940s, 50s. They work quietly and are not publicly known. So we are coming into a new age. We are coming into a new projection. And it almost feels, many of you may feel this, like we're at a cross in the road. We're at a tipping point. We could go this way or this way. And which way will we choose? And if we choose the higher road, which I am confident we will, we're going to have to adapt and adjust the way we've been doing things so that we can continue on that path and manifest a higher vibration and realm of existence so that we don't fall back into these negative patterns of war and destruction. I want to continue because this is really good, and then I'll stop here. Okay, so he's talking about the members of that group that worked quietly to prevent accidents. Okay. Why should not man pull all the forces of his being to work in some good purpose? And by man, he's meaning mankind, all of us. Okay. By keeping his perceptive faculty, or whatever else you may wish to name it, working in the spiritual realm, where everything moves in harmony toward the complete good of every being, there would be a corresponding action developed in the minds of all people. Because they were all working in obedience to the power that works toward the good of all, they could not possibly say or do anything except that which was for the good of each other. In other words, through obedience to the great law, meaning natural law, the law of the universe, there could be no conflict among individuals. There could be no wars, no accidents, nor any of the other things that make for misery in the ranks of human nature. I want to go down here just a little bit. This involves complete emotional control, more particularly than mental control. We must be brought to one-pointedness. When our forces are centered, it works positively. Jesus said one-pointedness is God. The entire matter of our social reorganization centers around a deeper perception. So let me read that again. The entire matter of our social reorganization centers around a deeper perception. People must learn how to develop this faculty. So we must learn how to use our intuition. We must learn how to use our perception faculties, our innate ability to have intuition, whereby we can gauge what's happening around us and respond according to natural law. Knowing how to do the right thing at the right time. That will be the social reorganization, knowing how to do the right thing at the right time. It will help now to hold the thought of right action always. We will come to the point where we will know that everything we do is the right thing to do at the right time. This is the substance of social functioning in the future. So he's talking about bringing in a new way of being and a new way of existing in order to bring in the higher energies to get us out of this pattern of war and destruction and negativity and terrorism and bombings and social unrest. And it is when we come to a place where we are listening to our own perception and listening to our own intuition and our guidance that comes from spirit, that comes from God, and using that to come to a place where we are in tune with right action, where we take right action, and it's not even a question of, oh, should I do this or should I do that? We just know, we just flow. When you get into the higher realms of and where we're heading, you will notice things just flow. That's how you know that you're being led and guided and you're moving in the realm of spirit. When things become easy. Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. When we become in the flow, things get easier, not harder. If you're on a spiritual path and things are drudge and difficult and hard, and that's not to say that life is not hard sometimes, but things are hard when we're coming up against our perceptions of how we think things are supposed to go. And we're butting up against our own patterns, our own, patterns of thought that keep us stuck in those vicious cycles. and where we're recycling things over and over again, and we're trying to get a different result, but we're not changing enough on the inside and aligning with natural law to help us move into that realm where we can release it, rise above it, and flow with the universe. Okay. I hope that wasn't too out there and heady. I hope you all are following me with what I'm saying. So I said all that. I wanted to tie this back in to Hawaii, because that kind of is what sparked it for me as I was reading this. That right now we're seeing a release of a lot of energy, and a destructive energy in Hawaii, where people's homes are being destroyed, beautiful landscapes and places where people vacationed are gone, they're no more, and there's just this unrest that is continuing. And as I was reading this, and it was saying that it is claimed that the Hawaiians would, if they sensed an impending influence and they sensed that it was not of benefit, they would turn it to a group who would work against it. And I thought, okay, where's this group today? Do they no longer meet? Are they no longer around? Has the lid that they were holding in their prayers and their intentions, has that somehow lifted, and now all of this stuff is coming to the surface, metaphorically speaking, but in a visual sense, all of the lava and stuff coming up to the surface. But was that being held at bay to some degree? And are those people still there? Are they still around, or have they released? As you know, it brought up all kinds of questions in my mind as to what's going on down there. And it just made me curious and I may never know the answer to that, but it made me curious reading this. And it also gave me hope, because we can do that work as well. To those who are adepts, to those who are studying spiritual truth, natural law, it is said that people who really understand natural law and grasp how to use the powers of the universe, that you can be a light worker and transmute those negative things that happen. You can be that light in the darkness that takes that power and transmutes it and sends love into that situation and brings about a different result, so that calamity and destruction just doesn't happen. So I guess I wanted to encourage people that may be listening to this, that if you are one of those who seeks to bring that balancing energy, that peace through prayer, and you probably already have been praying for Hawaii, but join your prayers with those of old, those saints. Maybe they've passed on. I mean, this was written 80, 90 years ago. Maybe take some time and join your prayers with them, for all of us, to move us into those realms, those higher realms, so that we can finally move out of this pattern that we've been stuck in. It does seem interesting that the earth is going through quite a shift right now. We're seeing volcanoes top off all over the place. We're seeing unrest with earthquakes and different geological events. It's like it feels like that energy is shifting around and moving. So maybe we can direct prayers for those who are so inclined, so that this energy that needs to come out can be released, but that it comes out in the best way possible, leaving the least amount of damage. So I wanted to bring this series of books to your attention, in case you'd never heard of these, and to encourage people that the spiritual truth in these books just goes very, very deep. And it's just really fascinating. And it talks about things about natural law and brings it into a way that people can understand it and understand what it is, how to work with it, and how to become one with it so that you're flowing with life rather than working against life and encountering struggle and pain and hardship. So there is a way to have abundant life, and it's up to us as spiritual seekers to work through those issues that we find and find our way back home to God, Spirit, what have you. So I'm going to leave that here. I may continue with this series. Maybe we'll delve into this a little more. There's some good stuff coming up as I've been reading through this book. So I appreciate you stopping by my channel, and I hope you liked it. If you do, leave a like. I will continue to do more videos, tarot, as well as talking about these types of spiritual truths. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.